medicine is capsicum, which is cayenne pepper, and we all know what that does to you. This medicine is great for the mucous membranes, the bones. It has an affinity for all that, and as we know, when you eat it, it really attacks the mucous membranes. We think it's burning, but it's usually not a burning, but more of a constriction of everything, and that's what causes people to uh, feel that burning sensation. It stops bleeding. So with cayenne pepper, we know from using it, whether in dishes or, as that medicine Bengay on the legs, it's good for a lot of different things that way. And if you think about that, it'll cause the, joints to not be so painful. You can also use it homeopathically. And that's when, they knew herbally it stops bleeding, good for sore throats, colds, flus, poor circulation, and of course, like I said, arthritis and achy joints. Uh, that's that Bengay you put on topically. General tonic and immune booster. Boosts the immune. Diabetes, helps control blood sugar. All those kind of things. You would consider that same situation in someone that has a cold. You would consider, using homeopathic cayenne pepper. So what they did was, they knew these symptoms. That say, let's make a medicine out of it. So they'd take and they'd make a homeopathic medicine out of cayenne peppers, and then they would do a proving. People would take it, they would get these symptoms. That's what this is, coming from the materia medica. And you would know anybody that has a flu, a cold, a whooping cough, yellow fever, bladder problems, joint pain, all that kind of stuff, you would consider capsicum homeopathically for that. So that's how they proved, you know, what it does. They also, when they do a proving on it, a healthy person would get these symptoms. They would know, that is good for these symptoms in someone who's sick. So, cayenne pepper, capsicum. Capsicum should be studied in connection with the other great members of the Solanum family, which is a plant family: Belladonna, Stramonium, Hyoscyamus, Dulcamara, Solan, I forget how that one ends. Carolyn, Solan Niger, Solan tuberculinum, which, I don't know if it's tuberculinum, but it's Solan tuberculo, whatever. Potato, that's potato, Solan tuber in that Solanum family, and Lycoper, which is tomato, which is in that same family as Belladonna, Stramonium, Hyoscyamus, all these plants. In delirium tremens from alcoholics, dram doses of tincture in milk or tincture of orange pill, equal parts of tincture of capsicum and glycerin. Make a liniment for external use in many cases of chronic rheumatism and neuralgia. So they're using capsicum. This milk in this orange pill is for the delirium tremens. I guess the orange pill kind of mellows out the burning. And the one lady, that's her name. Her name is O'Neill. Anyways, she says people having heart problems and they pass out and maybe a heart attack. She says she gives cayenne pepper in their mouth and it revives them. So rheumatism, of course, we know now. Neuralgia, nerve pain, which would be hypericum. I would think of nerve pains and stuff, but they're doing that externally. Also, it can be done internally, not with the Savonat. The well-known burning effects of red peppers are leading indications for its use. Burning pains, that's a 3, wherever occurring, demands that capsicum should have the first consideration. Burning in the hemorrhoids, burning in the joints, burning in the urethra or something, burning in your stools, burning in your stomach, heartburn. You'd think of capsicum right away. And that's homeopathically. If there are no, you can also use it herbally for that heartburn and stuff. If there are no other determining symptoms in favor of another remedy. So that's what you're looking at. Like capsicum has stiffness in the joints and stuff, better motion. Rhus tox has that too. So you'd be considering Rhus tox and capsicum at the same time. The burning of capsicum is worse from cold water. Capsicum is indicated where there is a lack of reaction in person of lax tissue. So a heavy-set person that, passed out or whatever. The mental state shows homesickness. This is a big keynote of it. They're away from home and they just have homesickness and they get all these symptoms come out. The red cheeks and sleeplessness with hot feeling and fauces. With a few doses of capsicum, Clark cured completely an Australian girl of florid complexion, darker complexion, who had come to London to study and who was quite incapacitated by homesickness. So that homesickness was his leading indication to give capsicum for, she could have been melancholic or that's depressed or something like that going on. A case of poisoning in a worker in a capsicum plaster factory. So they were putting capsicum together. I guess he had, being around it so much, he got poisoned by it. Brought out severe chill with shaking. And this is also how we find out what the medicine's good for. The severe chill with shaking. And it ended in an intense coryza or mucus, intense mucus coming out. Capsicum 30C brought speedy relief in a case of tympanitis. What is that? That's distended stomach from flatulence and all that, from gas, too much gas. Following laparotomy, which is they had a surgery on their belly and now they got all this gas. Capsicum would be good for that. The concomitant symptoms being cold nose, limbs, and cyanosis, which is the skin's looking blue. So they're very cold, nose, skin everywhere, and they got this bluish color. It seems suitable to those persons who are of lax tissue, weak, lazy, indolent, fat, red, clumsy, awkward, and of unclean habits. That all sounds like sulfur. Such persons are opposed, well, other than the fat and all that, but the unclean habits. Such persons are opposed to physical exertion, averse to go outside their routine and get outside of their routine and get homesick easily. Old people who have exhausted their vitality, especially by mental work and poor living. Persons react poorly and are afraid of cold. Abstainers from alcohol. So people alcoholics. Okay, capsicum, cayenne pepper, and there's a few of them that are good for alcoholism and all that. But anyways, constriction is a big one. So constriction of the throat, constriction of the, you think about it, you put that capsicum in your mouth and it really constricts things. Mastoiditis, which is a pain up in behind the ear there, the mastoid bones that protects the ear. That's a 3. Burning sensations, smarting, soreness is sore to touch, a general uncleanness of the body. That's why I say that sulfur, that's a 3 too. Sulfur has that uncleanness and dirtiness and doesn't want, where arsenicum has burning, and they're tidy and clean. They'll clean up your place. They come to see you and they'll start cleaning up for you. And that's an arsenicum. Capsicum, they're just, man, who cares? It's all good. Worse or better motion, heat, and eating. That's why I say Rustance is also better motion. You begin to move and the joints feel better. Same thing with capsicum. So you need other symptoms to the cold and all that, the aversion to cold and things like that to, choose between Rustox and capsicum. Heat, better eating, worst slight draft. So they can't take any draft blowing on their face or anywhere. They can't stand it. And this might have been good for a buddy. It was like 100 degrees in the warehouse we worked in, and he did not want a fan. He hated a fan blowing on him. So that could be, that might have been a symptom that he needed that. Warm, cold air. Matter of fact, that's the guy that hurt his knee, and I gave him a bottle of water with bryonia in it, and he come jumping 2 hours later. It's better. It fixed it. I said, yeah, I know. So and then he wanted to buy a whole kit. He said, I'm going to buy a kit of that. Well, you ain't going to know what to do. That's why I have this community and that people can come in and they can learn about homeopathic medicine. Eventually, if they want to go deeper on how to do, take the case and look at things, because that's the art. The art is taking the case and knowing what to look for. But learning the medicines is very valuable. That's why I do this. It helps me learn the medicines, and it's putting out there that all the different medicines we have and what they're good for. Warm, better, warm, cold. Wait, no, this is worse, right? Slight draft. Yeah, worse slight draft, worse warmth, worse cold air. That's a 3. the cold air. They don't like the cold air blowing on them. Worse, water gives them chills. Uncovering, they can't uncover. That gets the chills. Rest, worse than rest. They got to get up and move. Touch, and that's arsenicum, aconite, and the flus and colds. They're just restless and they can't get settled. Rust talks. Touch, worse from touch. Empty swallowing, so their throat hurts when they swallow emptily. No water, no food, no none. Homesickness is a big one. That's a causation, and that's a 3. Homesickness with sleeplessness, so they can't sleep at night, and they got this just home. They wish they were home. And disposition to suicide, so there's that depression in there. Sentimental, nostalgic moods. They want to watch old movies or reminisce of old times and all that kind of stuff. They even sing old songs. I would, imagine they're singing old songs. Uh, Delirium tremens, that's alcoholism. The person's coming off alcohol, and that's 2 drugs you don't come off of: alcohol and benzos. They will kill you. So you want to have some backup with you there, so you don't, you get these delirium tremens. They say, one guy I remember in AA said, yeah, them pink elephants they talk about? He said, I've seen them. So, you got to be careful coming off alcohol if you're a heavy drinker. Flatulent colic with mucus and stool. So we think of mucus just in the nose and that, but there's mucus down in the kidneys and the liver and all that area down there. And that mucus is coming out in the stools with all this colic. The abdomen's distended and got a lot of gas in there. And especially from eating vegetables. They just, for some reason, can't process vegetables as well. Violent pulsation in arteries. So, yeah, they can feel the arteries in their abdomen pulsating, with their heart, I would imagine. Back, lumbar pain after stool. So they take a crap and they get this lower back pain. Pain in sacrum with hemorrhoids. So there's a lot of back pain related to the anus, the stools, the hemorrhoids. So it's all related to the bowel, the whole bowel system there, with the hemorrhoids related to the anus. And dysentery. Dysentery is, you drink some bad water. And then when they have a stool, they have a sensation of cold water that runs down their back. So it feels like they get this chill, this shuddering. Pain when they drinking water too. So they, any drinking of water aggravates their symptoms. So that's why it's said, anyways, constriction of the chest. So there's constriction of the throat, constriction of the chest, arrest breathing. So they have a hard time getting any air in there. Swelling, pain behind ears. So that's that mastitis, usually, most likely. Inflammation of mastoids. These are all 3s. That's, I underline. I've been underlined with an old marker, but whatever. Tenderness in the ears. That's a 3. And tenderness in the petrous bones, which is the bones towards the back of the head. So in the ear, the mastoid, and then the back of the head, they got these bones that are aching. That's why it says it's a very good bone remedy. Aching joints, aching up there. There was something else with the ears. Anyways, there's so much. I can't fit everything in there. I think it's the otorrhea. They have a discharge coming out. Objects appear black in the eyes. That's kind of interesting. I think yesterday Cantharis was they appear yellow. Burning lacrimation during cough. So they cough and the mucus coming out of the lungs is burning, or out of the eyes, sorry. They cough and their eyes water and it's a burning lacrimation out of the eyes. Red but cold face, that's a 3. So their face is flushed red, but it's very cold. It doesn't feel hot. Or they're pale and red alternately, so they can, change colors there. Lips are swollen, cracked, and burning. And Nat mur is the chronic of capsicum, and this is usually these are probably cold sores, which is herpes, so this would be given, and it's not doing the trick for these situations. You might think of Nat mur as a chronic, or to open up the case and then come back to capsicum. Menopause with burning in the tip of the tongue. So a lady in her prime of her life, they got this burning on the tip of their tongue. With menopause, you would think of capsicum, anything burning. Sticking in the ovary, the left ovary, with disordered menses. So a younger lady with menses that are off. They get this sticky pain in their sticking pain in their left ovary. You'd think of capsicum. Much thirst, but causes shuddering. So when they drink, they shudder. They get the chill, you know. And when that's a 3. When they have the stool, they get the chill. Desires coffee, but the coffee nauseates them. They crave stimulating, pungent things. So that's their craving. Some people are sour, some people are sweet. This one is pungent, uh, and things that stimulate. Bursting headache, worse coughing. So that their cough really causes their headache to be worse. Better heat and movement. So they got to get up and move, and they want to get warm. Face is red though cold. Asafoetida, whatever. That medicine has that red face. Yeah, face is red, but the skin is cold. So asaf and capsicum would be considered in that heart nothing. But I would consider heart, yeah, I guarantee there's some heart things that should be there. Frequent, almost ineffectual urging to urinate. So there's just like cantheris, they have burning down in the urinary tract, and this one has that burning too. But both of them have this urge to urinate. You'd have to choose between them and a few other medicines probably. Which one would be best for the person you're looking at? Strangury, they can't urinate. They got this desire, frequent, they can't urinate. Now, yesterday's Canthera said it feels like it drops on drip by drip, and it feels like molten metal. So that's how bad it burns. This is not as bad, but there's that burning. Burning in orifice with that strangury in that. So that's a 3. Joints crack. Stiff, painful on beginning to move. And that's all like a Russ Talks situation. Um, Anyways, sciatica, left side. Anybody having left-sided sciatica? This one, and there's a few other ones that would be a left-sided sciatica. We have medicines that are right-sided sciaticas. Tensive pain in the knee. So that's where that snap is, that bones crack. It lets up with a snap. It's tense, tense, tense crack when they move it. Liver nothing. Lungs, hoarseness in singers and preachers. And that is a Russ talk situation too, where they, talk too much, or they lose their voice by too much singing, talking, whatever's going on. You would consider Russ talks, capsicum. There could be a couple other ones. Pain in apex of heart or rib, worst touch. So yeah, there's that pain there. And that's why I said there should probably be some heart stuff with this. But anyways, they got this pain and they can have it touched in the rib or the heart. Seems like it's more kind of external pain there, because touch is not, you can't go in and touch the heart. Coldness of scrotum. This is a 3 with impotence, with softening and dwindling. So the guy's not having any luck down there. That thing ain't working right. But and usually the scrotum and that whole area stays very warm. That's but this one has coldness scrotum, impotency, and softening and dwindling of the organ. Gonorrhea with cordia and burning. So the penis bends the wrong way. I don't know if that's what they're calling that. Peyronie's disease, I think it's called. Yeah, they show a bent banana. Gonorrhea with cordy. So this can be all, that bent penis and all that could be a gonorrheal situation. And I think it said there was like a whitish discharge that came out too with the burning. Herpes of the lips, that can be a nat myrrh. So you drop the mother tincture of capsicum on there. Could you imagine how that burns, putting that on that cold sore? Just take it internally and just take it, you can take a nat myrrh if it doesn't work. Stomatitis, which is mouth ulcers. Fetid odor in the mouth. Those are all 3s. Tongue is greenish at the base. And they talk about like gangrene in the lungs. So that's very interesting. Greenish is kind of a gangreenish thing. Some kind of infection or something going on there. Gums are spongy. That sounds like mercury. Spongy gums with bleeding in that. But you could also consider capsicum. Red but cold on the nose. The nose is red but cold. Almost reminds you of the alcoholic with the red nose. But the nose is cold to touch. A lot of cold. The body's cold to touch. The nose is cold to touch. Tip is very hot though. Feels hot, I would imagine, to the person. Nosebleed in the morning. So it's a lot of good for bleeding, any kind of bleeding, and they say if you have a cut and it's bleeding bad, you can put that on it. That sounds like it would burn pretty good. I would take it internally and I would use phosphorus externally, homeopathically. There could be a couple things for the bleeding. Bloody mucus with burning and tenesmus in the rectum. So there's blood and mucus. I don't know if the blood's coming from the hemorrhoids or just from the internal stuff, but there's mucus coming out. So there's a lot of mucus with this one, with burning and tenesmus. And think about it, if I eat hot food, my nose runs, I cough up stuff. It just really empties out the mucus. So it has a very big affinity for the mucous membranes and the bones. Tenesmus means they never feel like they're finished going. Thirsty after stool with shivering. So they have a stool, they drink, and then they shiver. Bleeding from hemorrhoids with burning, soreness in anus, stinging pain during stools. That stinging sounds like apis could be considered there. Stinging like a bee. But there's that burning with it. I don't think there's burning with apis. There may be some. Bloody mucus in stools with tenesmus. Never feel like they're done. Didn't I have that already? And tenesmus of rectum and bladder. So either when urinating or having a stool, they just never feel like they're done. Skin is burning, bloating, and flabby. So heavy set, flabby individual. We all have different constitutions and a lot of bloating everything's bloated. A lot of fluid retention. Sleepless with emotions from homesickness. That's a keynote for this medicine. That someone has homesickness, they'll start having some of these symptoms come out. Much flatulence. Much flatulence in the stomach. So it's a lot of distension in that there, especially with debilitating. When debilitated. So when someone is laying around or not moving much, they get a lot of flatulence. Vomiting and sinking at pit of stomach. Water brash, which is acid reflux. Icy coolness of the stomach. Shivers after drinking. That's a 3. This is with temperatures. Fevers after emotions. So that homesickness and they have this fever after they're just like they can't wait to go home. Or other emotions can bring it on. That myrrh is another emotional remedy that has emotional stuff in it. Coldness with pain and ill humor. That's with the temperature. Chill alternates with heat. So, they're having this fever, chill, then heat, chill, then heat, but there's pain and they're just not in a very good mood. Flus, colds, whooping cough, yellow fever, whatever you got going on. This is the situation for this person. And the throat is burning, smarting in throat, hot feeling in fauces, that's a 3, and pain and dryness in the throat. Sore throat of smokers and drinkers is a 3. So anybody that's heavy smokers, drinkers, and that, and they got that burning pain, you would consider capsicum. Comments? Got some time? Capsicum acts with great intensity on the mucous membranes and also on the bones. Disorders of bones in general, pains and bones of face, inflammation of petrous bones, the bones in the back of the head, and there's the mastoid bones in the ear. I would say should have been in there. Lack of reaction and bodily irritation. So someone fainting, someone doesn't react, they have a cold or flu, or not reacting much. Gelsemium you'd think about, a couple other ones, but they're very irritable. Don't touch me. They can't take touch. Symptoms generally appear on the left side. So a left-sided remedy compared to, I can't think of no right-sided remedies right now. And as with dulcamara, which is in that family of plants, the Solomon plants or whatever they are, dulcamara is anytime there's worse damp. Is it damp, cold? Any dampness, dulcamara you would consider. And this one is good for that too. There is extreme sensitive to cold and damp, which makes most symptoms worse. Redness of skin, so you would consider dulcamara, capsicum for this worse damp, cold weather. And that's probably the rheumatism. redness of skin, and even a scarlet eruption like belladonna. So they get an eruption on the skin. They get these fevers like scarlet fever, and if you don't take care of it right, you end up with, what is it? Scarlatina, scarlet fever, and then you get there's another thing. Once you take care of the scarlet fever the wrong way, there's another sickness. I can't think of what it is right now, but they get this scarlet like eruptions on their skin like belladonna, and that's what happens with scarlet fever. They get these fevers and chills and that, and they get this red eruption on their body. Very characteristic is a cough with fetid breath or bad taste. So they've got this bad taste. It's not, well, cough causing splitting pain in head, chill at 10:30 a.m. That's very specific for some reason. Beginning between shoulders and running down back. Some chills begin in below and run up. This one for capsicum begins in the between the shoulders and runs down the back. Capsicum is a notable fever remedy. The patient is thirsty, but drinking causes shuddering. So they're very thirsty, dry mouth. They drink and then they get a chill. Absence of thirst during heat. So when they have the fever and they're very hot, they don't have a thirst. Burning and pungent pains, worse by applications of cold water, are very marked. So they don't like cold water. They don't like cold air blowing on them. Burning, pungent sensation in face, worse by slightest draught of cold air. Any air blowing on them would make them, really aggravate them. Burning in throat, burning blisters in roof of mouth. That's with diphtheria or gangrene even they're talking about. That's why I said I knew there was gangrene in there. Constriction of throat, spasmodic closure of throat, pain when not swallowing. So it aches when not swallowing. Some colds and flus and that, they ache when you swallow. And some can be worse swallowing food, and others can be worse swallowing just water, or empty swallowing even, just your saliva. Burning in rectum, tenesmus, so they always feel like they're never done, and there's always burning down. Or burning hemorrhoids, or hemorrhage, burning on urination, burning in bladder. So a lot of burning with this, just like cantharis, which I did yesterday, the Spanish fly. That one had a lot of burning down in that area. There is awkwardness, fearfulness. So then, you have a couple different remedies, and then you have to differentiate between which one would be the best. There is awkwardness, fearfulness, obstinacy, alternating states. This alternating states is like pulsatilla. The pains go from one place to the other place, and their mental thing alternates. They're happy, they're sad, they laugh and weep by turns. And now jocose, they sing, they're happy, but becomes angry from slightest cause. So they're very happy, they're going on, they're singing, everybody's lovely, and then something happens and they just get angry. Becomes angry from slightest cause. Delirium. So this can be in flus, colds, and that. It doesn't have to be alcohol. It has been given with great success in delirium tremens, which is alcohol poisoning, mostly in dram doses of the tincture. So they gave the tincture for that. Given in milk. Better from heat is the most important modality. Yeah, and then, so that's modality is better by heat, worse by cold, and some other ones that might have joint. I'm trying to think, Russ talks. I think that's better by heat too. But anyways, some other ones may be cold, better by cold, like ice packs and that. The person will go for cold. This person will go for heat that needs capsicum, which seems opposite of what, this has a lot of burning. You'd think somebody with a lot of burning would want cold, but they don't. They want heat. Patients who cannot get to sleep without a hot bottle at their back. So for that back pain, they want a hot heating pad. Spirits become lower as body becomes cooler. So as it temperature goes down, they go outside and get cold, or they get cold somehow. And that's why I say you're out in the hot, and then you come into a cold air conditioned room. Everybody wonders why they get sick in the summer. Sensation as if cayenne pepper were sprinkled on parts. So it's burning on different parts of the body, whether it's the joints, the skin, the hemorrhoids, the anus, wherever. Violent pains in various places. now here, now there. That's why I say that's pulsatilla has that. You know, to have a pain in the knee, right knee, then a pain in the left shoulder, then a pain in the right big toe or something. Sensation as if parts would go to sleep. So there's a lot of tingling and that in there. I ain't got much time. So it's always interesting to go back to the comparative part. Arnica, belladonna, bryonia for headaches from cough, cantharis for burning pain. So that's the one I did just previously. Throat symptoms, dysentery, urinary symptoms. You'd consider all that cantharis and capsicum. Serenum, lack of reaction, despair of recovery. You would consider that serenum. Capsicum in persons of lax tissue. So lack of reaction, lax tissue, capsicum, serenum, just a lack of reaction with despair. Lachesis, thirst before chill, continues into chill. And lachesis is another good throat remedy. Drinking worse also, elapsis is another medicine. Nat myrrh, carbo veg, and many for that, all that stuff. Okay, intermittence. Nat myrrh is the chronic of capsicum. So you're given capsicum, you might want to consider nat myrrh in a lower dose and keep going with it. You might come back to capsicum afterwards. Carboanimalis and nitric acid. That's if you give capsicum, it's not doing the trick. It's helping palliate it or it makes it feel better, but it's not getting rid of it. You would think of nat myrrh as a chronic. Carboanimalis and nitric acid, which carboanimalis I'm doing next, in inflammation behind ears, which is that mastitis and all that stuff. Aurum metallicum and nitric acid preferable in abscesses. Any abscesses? Silica in chronic suppuration. So silica helps with, in capsicum will help with any pus coming out of different areas. Phosphoric acid, homesickness. Those two, capsicum and phosphoric acid with homesickness, except capsicum has red face. Arsenicum, aluminum, carboveg, lycopodium have burning pains better by heat. So all of them have burning pains. And you'd have to consider better by heat. Now you'd have to use a different modality, a different symptom to figure out which one would be best. Mercury, nitric acid, sulfur have passage of blood from bowels. Crotalus tig, after drinking, urging to stool. So Crotalus tig, that medicine would be they drink something, now they got to go to have a stool. Helleborus, colic with spasms of bladder. Platina, burning, pungent pain in face. Worst slightest drought of air, warm or cold. Pulsatilla, lycopodium, and belladonna. Centuria, surging of blood, homesickness, and intermittent fever. I'm not going to get into the other part. There's antidoted by. So antidoted by, you know, if I give you capsicum, you prove it and you get some of these symptoms and that, I give you, which one would I give to antidote that? I would give you caladium, camphor, china, all them would antidote it. So you get these symptoms, I write them down, I give you one of those medicines, it takes it away, and that's how they prove the medicine. So, all right, that's morning medicine. You can age. I got to get out and try to beat my mom to doing the snow. She's probably already got it done if I know her. That is morning medicine. You can age, but you don't have to get old. She's a trip, boy.